Hi, I'm Andy Villamarzo with SBLive Sports Florida, and thank you for joining us for episode 22 of the Coastal. And we've got quite a lineup for you as it is playoff football down here in the Sunshine State. And we've got a handful of coaches that are going to come on with us all the way from Jacksonville down to Naples. We have Nice head coach Colin Drafts that's going to join us. We have Wiregrass Ranch head coach Mark Cantor. We have assistant head coach and defensive coordinator out of Golden Gate and PJ Gibbs. We have head coach out of Parish Community, Dylan Clark. And we also have head coach out of Yulee, Kyle Doherty. Those five are going to join us here for our next episode of the Coastal. Stay tuned. Our first guest we're going to bring on, his team is preparing for a Class 3S Region 4 playoff game against Naples on Friday night, and bring in Dylan Clark of Parish Community. Coach, thank you for joining us.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And Coach, first off, a lot of teams, obviously, this past Sunday when the playoffs were being announced by the FHSAA, were pretty nervous. Were you one of those coaches that was kind of wondering what the heck was about to be said come announcements when it was time for selections for the playoffs?
Well, sir, we're pretty confident that if we beat George Jenkins last Friday, that we would get into the playoffs. We didn't know what our seed would be. We didn't know who our opponent was. But with the victory on Friday over George Jenkins, we had an idea that we'd make it to the playoffs.
All right. Well, let's get to it with your opponent. Got the Naples Golden Eagles on tap, and
great football program, historic football program, has a great football culture. They run the football. They're fast. They're physical. They do a good job. So it's going to be a very quality opponent as we move into Naples on Friday.
Is there an opponent that you face this season that you feel like is at all similar to Naples? And if so, who would that opponent be?
Honestly, no. They're split back veer offense, which is a very unique and different kind of offense in today's football. So it's just different. We have not seen anything like it all year. Defensively, they bring a lot of pressure and a lot of tight coverage, and we've seen that throughout the course of this season. But the offense is extremely new. They're very downhill, really old school in their approach offensively.
When's the last time you coached against a team that ran the veer?
I can't say I have. It just doesn't come around a lot. We've seen a lot of triple option, but the split back veer is very unique and different. So we've worked really hard this week to be schematically sound and try to take away what they do well.
Just going into the playoffs, coming off that win against George Jenkins, heading in, how confident is your group in just being able to go down to Collier County and trying to pick up a first-round win?
Man, we really don't concern ourselves with who we play. It's who we are, and we just try to go out every single day and be the best version of ourselves. And this week, we've had a great week of practice, Monday and Tuesday. Moving into today, we're excited to see what today brings. But we're just trying to be the better version of ourselves every day.
Who are some guys you feel like really have to step up for you guys? Obviously, every week we do our players of the week, and you always have some guys offensively, defensively. Jackson Voles at quarterback, Jerome Turner at running back. Got some guys defensively. Who are some guys you feel like really have to be key guys on Friday night?
Well, man, it's going to take a team effort for us to be successful. We're going to have to go out, and 11 guys are going to have to do their job for 48 minutes. Obviously, Jackson, Jermaine Edwards, Jerome Turner, Lane Tomlinson, Chemistry Young. Those are the guys on offense that, again, have to go out and execute and perform at a very high level defensively. It's going to take a team effort. Gage Cameron leads our defensive unit. Holton Graham, Ben Biasini, and on the back end, we got Bryson Bender, Eloy Serrata. Those guys are all going to have to play big for us on Friday for us to be successful.
And last question, Coach, is it better to enter the playoffs kind of as an underdog to a higher seed, or do you feel like vice versa?
Well, man, it's going to take what it's going to take. We're obviously the underdog, and we're embracing that status. But, man, it is what it is at this point, man. It's playoff. Playoff football is just a little bit different. Everybody has a chance, and everybody has an opportunity. If we go out and execute for 48 minutes, I feel very optimistic about our chances.
All right. Well, that is Dylan Clark of Parish Community. He was formerly over at Alonso, so remembered him at his time there. Coach, thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Andy.
Hi, I'm Andy Villamarzo with SBLive Sports Florida, and thank you for continuing with us here on episode 22 of the Coastal. And I have another special guest with us here, all the way in probably the most northeastern part of Florida here. And you might remember the school based on where Derrick Henry used to play, and he is the head coach there, Kyle Doherty. Coach, thank you for coming on with us.
I appreciate you having me.
Well, Yulia's had a really good season this year, 8-2. Only a couple losses on the season to Baker County and Titusville. Coach, from what you could take away from the regular season going into the playoffs, what kind of momentum do you feel like this team has at its back going into the U.S. playoffs?
We've responded pretty well after the Baker County loss. Those two losses are two really good football teams, and Titusville's only losses to Cocoa. They're in the 2S playoffs, and they got a tough game in Palm Bay. Baker County is a really well-coached football team by Coach Mays, and they had our number that night. They made a lot of big plays on us, and we just didn't capitalize in the same way. But since that Baker County game, we responded. Defense has only given up 6 points in 3 games, and we found our way into the end zone in those 3 games against a Menendez team that was on the verge of the playoffs, an improved West Nassau team that upset Fernandina a couple weeks before we played them, and then an Episcopal team that put up a lot of points on everybody. So really pleased with the way we've kind of progressed and where we're at going into this playoff.
And going into this playoff game, this region quarterfinal here against Keystone Heights, which I know me and you kind of were talking a little off air before that even got announced. That was probably going to be the team.
Yeah.
With knowing that may be your guys' matchup in the playoffs. Just what kind of team is this Keystone Heights team, and are they comparable to anybody that you've already played?
There's some elements that are comparable. They are big. They got a lot of big football players. They got a really good running back. He's his name's slipping my mind right now. But he's a 6'2", 200-pound kid, big kid, runs hard. He's got a big offensive line. Height and weight, size is not something that we necessarily have defensively in our front defensive line. We're a quick group that gets off the ball well, but that's kind of the polar opposites of what we are comparing to each other. They got a bunch of big athletic kids. They present people some problems. That's probably that's why they're in the playoffs. That's why they made it here and won enough games to get in, is that they have those elements to it. They marry up some plays on offense well with their run game, and they present teams problems with things looking alike and things that are layered off of each other really well.
Well, obviously, you guys present opposing defenses a lot of problem with your offense, and kind of talk about the play of your quarterback, Nico Smith, and the rest of the players around him. Just how has this offense kind of come along as the season's gone on with a new quarterback, and where do you feel like it's at right now?
Yeah, so new quarterback as in for us this year, but 2 years ago he was with us, so he's familiar with the way we operated a little bit before he went to Ware County. But Nico Smith has done a phenomenal job. He's cool and calm. He collects himself really well, delivers the football all over the place where it needs to go. He's done a great job steering the ship of our offense and keeping us on schedule and putting us in a situation to be successful. If we execute minor little things in the red zone, there's opportunities for probably 8 more touchdowns on the season for us. And those are just things that need timing and time and process for us to get to that level. So I'm hoping this week is the time that we hit our stride and we finish some of those red zone drives. But Nico's been a phenomenal job. We've done a great job in the past. DJ Mason and Tyson Wharton are our 2 leading receivers. They both have about 500 yards each. They've done a phenomenal job catching the ball and making plays after. And then our 2 running backs, Tiante Artis Croxton and Shamarion Gibbs. They both have, last 2 weeks, we've rushed for 450 yards. So they're doing a great job on the ground and making a lot of plays for us.
And I see these offensive numbers week in and week out, and obviously with Nico coming back to Yulee, and he won a state championship last year with Ware County. Just him being somebody that's won a state title, albeit in another state, but having somebody like that on your side leading the way. I mean, what does that do for the team, his teammates, just everyone around?
Yeah, it's like I said, he does a great job being a calming presence. He's calm and cool on the sideline. He talks positively to his teammates. He knows what it takes, and that's what's really great to have him a part of our program again, is that he has experienced it and he knows what it takes to get to the place that we're all striving for. He's been there before. He knows what kind of mannerisms it takes to get there. He knows how to speak to his teammates and talk to them and how to uplift them and put them in a situation where they believe in everybody. And that's what he does. That's the best intangible that he carries, is his leadership ability there.
Well, that leadership ability will be needed through a Class 2S playoff run potentially. Hornets looking to make a deep run and maybe get on Interstate 10, head west, and maybe be in Tallahassee at the end of it. So, well,
so
Coach,
we're looking for, Coach. That's what we're hoping for.
well, that is Yulee head coach Kyle Doherty. Coach, thank you for coming on the Coastal with us and talking a little playoff football.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the Coastal. This is our special playoff regional quarterfinal edition where we're going to bring on some coaches from around the state. They're going to talk about their playoff matchups. And next up, we bring in assistant head coach, defensive coordinator over at Golden Gate High School. You probably heard about the Titans and some of the things they've done this season, Coach PJ Gibbs. And Coach, thank you for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me. It's a privilege to be on talking with you.
Absolutely. And well, we'll get to it here from the regular season. You guys did some great things. Obviously, beating Naples for the first time was a huge accomplishment. What were some things you guys were able to take away from the regular season that's really been great momentum for you guys heading into the playoffs?
I mean, obviously, that's a landmark win for our program. The first time beating Naples in the history of the school, and winning the district title in a very tough district with Barron Collier, Laley, Naples, Bonita Springs. I mean, very good competition. And then, last week beating Palmetto Ridge, we won the first Collier County Athletic Conference Championship in the history of the school. So, the kids have done a great job buying into what we're selling as coaches. And I think one thing that kind of stuck out for me is, our strength of schedule this year, I think was something that really set us apart at the end of the day. Going up to Bartow and playing there, and playing some tough road games, and having FBA on the schedule. And but I mean, listen, to be 8-2 and to be the 1 seed and have home field through the first 3 rounds is a testament to the players in our program, and just those kids just continuing to work hard and to get better each and every day.
Well, we got to talk about the playoffs here Friday night. You guys in the region quarterfinal here in Class 3S, Region 4. You got Mariner, who's also had a just really a program record-breaking season. They sit at 8-2. What are some things you see out of the Tritons, and how do you feel about this matchup?
I mean, Coach Nicholson does a tremendous job. He has for years, out there, and their 24 class of seniors is very similar to ours. I mean, I got a chance to coach against them when I was the head coach at East Lee 2 years ago when we played them, and they have athletic kids, they have tough kids in the trenches, and that's the one thing about the playoffs. I mean, yeah, like the seeds are great, and we get to play home, but they're district champs, and they're coming down, here to win, and it's survive and advance, so we're looking forward to a great crowd at home, and they're going to come down here, and it's going to be a great football game, and hopefully we do the right things in all 3 phases and are able to come out on top.
You guys weren't one of those teams on Sunday that were kind of really nervous about where you guys were going to be in terms of if you're going to get in or not. You guys are the number 1 seed in that 3S Region 4. Just talk about being the 1 seed, and obviously it's kind of different for Golden Gate to be at that very top, but embracing just being kind of the top dog as it is, and then maybe your chances of getting to a state semifinal. Sure.
I mean, first and foremost, being the 1 seed, as I said before, is a testament to our kids and the hard work they put in all season. And, it's obviously something that's never happened here We do have guys on staff that have been, in the playoffs before. So we do have playoff experience as far as coaching goes. We got a couple guys, we were together at Palmetto Ridge in 2020 when we made it to the semifinals. And but I mean, being the 1 seed is a great honor. It just means you get to play at home, right? So you have that advantage of not having to get on a bus, on Friday. You do your normal school day and go through the pregame stuff, and nothing really changes. So like I said, I think we have a very stacked region, 1 through 8. We have some great teams. You have, obviously Naples is the 2 seed, Barron Collier as the 3. You get a rematch of that great Fort Myers Dunbar, at 4 and 5, and Port Charlotte is a tremendous team. I mean, Coach Ingman does a great job with those guys. They're always very physical. They have great athletes. We got to play against them at Palmetto in 2020 in the quarterfinals, and they're always very well coached and disciplined. And Parish Community is another team where they're an athletic team out of that Bradenton area, and obviously we just spoke about Mariners, so it's when you get to playoff football, it's who makes the least amount of mistakes, and who just is consistently playing well for 48 minutes. And obviously the further you get along, the better the competition gets, and the stakes are higher, just like anything. But we're really excited. I mean, the kids are working hard, and we really can't wait till Friday to get out there and kind of show out for our fans.
Well, Coach, we'll definitely be keeping an eye on Golden Gate as the playoffs start and move along. And we thank you for coming on the Coastal with us.
No, I appreciate you guys having me. You guys do a great job of covering and helping the kids out, all throughout the state. So, as coaches, we appreciate all the hard work you guys put in as well.
And thank you for joining us here on the Coastal, continuing our roundabout around the state, talking with head coaches. And next up, we got Nice head coach Colin Drafts, and his team is going to be hosting number 2 seed Niceville this Friday night. And well, Coach, we got to get right to it. You guys have had a really good season here, and touch on the regular season real quick for us. Just kind of what were some of the things you felt like you could take away from what you guys did in the regular season and keep that momentum up in the playoffs?
Yeah, for sure. We felt like we had a quality team coming back. Last year was a bit of a disappointment, just with the win-loss record and not reaching the playoffs after having a spectacular 2021 year. But we felt good about it coming in. As every coach will probably admit, you never know exactly what you're going to be made of. We didn't know what our identity was early on, but early in the season, it was a week 1 win in overtime, and then it was a loss, and there was another win, and then it was a loss, another win. So you're winning, you're losing, you're winning, you're losing. We weren't really rolling yet, but it was definitely about the midway point. We really started to find out what we're made of. Started playing a lot better on offense. Had some guys come back from injury. Bryce Frick stepped in as our quarterback. I think week 4, week 5 did a phenomenal job, and then our defense really got better and better as the year wore on. So we're winners of 5 of our last 6, with our 1 loss coming to undefeated St. Augustine, and we definitely had a big upset, over rival Ponte Vedra, which I'm sure most people didn't see coming in the district, and we were able to close that out as district champs, beating Tecoy last week. So we feel really good about it. Yeah, I felt like that we could accomplish, being district champs and making the playoffs all, really all year long. And the boys provided and proved that they could do that. So here we are.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up just a sensational season that Max Spencer's had at wide receiver. I mean, I know your quarterback, right. Bryce Frick, has played very well, but just kind of talk about Spencer's season, just how well he's played.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's played phenomenal. He was our leading receiver last year as a 10th grader. I think he finished with right at about 750 yards, maybe 6 or 7 touchdowns, with a lot of that coming in the back half of the year too, when he really started coming along. So we knew that, we had a special player coming back. It was our job as the coaching staff to find ways to get him the ball as much as possible. And every step of the way, he proved that he could handle that. It was really week 2 when he had a 300-yard, he caught the ball 14 times for 302 yards and 3 touchdowns versus Creekside. So we didn't win that game, but we felt like after that game that we knew that we had a special player. And he's really continued that every step of the way. He's been the leading receiver in the state of Florida, basically the whole year. I think he will finish. I haven't seen the updated stats across the state, but he's at just shy of 1,300 yards and I think 15 touchdowns. So he's either one or two, whatever it is. So he's done a great job. But he would tell you the same thing. It goes back to the quarterback, and then it always starts with the offensive line and all the players around him as well. One guy can't do it himself. He's had a great year, but that's really a credit to, you know, our entire offensive unit for him to put those numbers up.
Well, Coach, obviously you'll be leaning on Maddox and that offensive line and quarterback play against Niceville on Friday night. You open up the Class 4S Region 1 playoffs with a home game, which is at 6 p.m. If you guys are looking to go to the game, it is not at 7:30 or 7 o'clock, 6 p.m. special. I just saw Niceville myself. What are some things that you see about Niceville that kind of stand out, and do they remind you of any opponent you've already played?
Right. Well, we are familiar with Niceville. In 2021, in the second round, we actually had to travel all the way to Niceville, and we were lucky enough to win that game. Came back in the fourth quarter and won that one, and then ended up losing to Buchholz in the third round. So we're familiar with them. They're very similar to the way they operated 2 years ago. Obviously, different players, just like us, but they're big, they're strong, they're physical, they're fast, they're well coached, they're disciplined. I mean, they check all the boxes, really. They've got some really good players, and their coaching staff knows, you know, how to utilize those guys. So, you know, we're going to have to just play our brand of football. You know, we can't worry about our opponent too much. Of course, we're scheming for them and what they like to do. But as cliche as it sounds, it's really more about us and us staying true to our identity in all three phases of the game. And, you know, we've got them at home. We've got great momentum. And we feel good about the game going into Friday. Definitely going to be a battle, though. Playoff football, you know, with the 7th seed, they're the 2 seed. It's going to be a big time game, big time atmosphere, and we know that we're going to have to play our best to get a victory.
And I'd have to say, from after last year to have the kind of season you guys had this year, and now to be in the playoffs, number 2 seed or number 7 seed, facing number 2 seed, just is there anything better than being back in the postseason?
Absolutely not, man. It feels great. This is why we put all the work in. You know, ever since January, boys have been lifting, running, throwing, spring ball, summer ball, camp, all the things, all the sacrifices they make with their time as high school student athletes. When you can see it come to fruition and get the payoff of being a district champion, being back in the playoffs. And to me, this is where Nice belongs. You know, I've been here for 5 years now, and the goal and the mission, you know, was always to put Nice football back on the map. You look at the tradition and the heyday with the state championship back in 2005 and the repeat appearances in 07 and 08, and all those things that Coach Howard and those guys were able to accomplish is what drew me here. I felt like we could get back to that. Obviously, we're not to a state championship level yet, but we want to compete for a district championship every year. And if we're not in the playoffs, we're going to be disappointed. So I'm happy that we were able to check those off this year, and I feel like the sky's the limit this year and moving forward for Nice High School.
All right. Well, Coach, good luck on Friday night against Niceville, and thank you for coming on with us here at the Coastal, and hope to be talking to you next week.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me.
Absolutely. That is Nice head coach Colin Drafts. His Nice Panthers are going to be taking on Niceville Eagles in a region quarterfinal matchup in Class 4S. Stay tuned with us as we're going to bring on Golden Gate assistant head coach and defensive coordinator PJ Gibbs. And thank you for continuing to stay with us here in our playoff edition region quarterfinal. And we've got another head coach we're bringing on here out of Pasco County, Wiregrass Ranch head coach Mark Cantor, and his Bulls are going to be playing against the Springstead Eagles, which is a rematch from the regular season. That was a 51-48 decision, and the Bulls took that one. Coach, thank you for coming on with us.
Oh, Andy, thanks. Andy and Christian, thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Well, we're going to jump right to it as that game I just aforementioned. Obviously, the regular season one was bring your popcorn and really just sit back, and it was a very exciting offensive-filled game. What do you feel like it could be different from that first matchup to this one?
Well, it's just all going to depend on, you know, how they defend us and how we're going to defend them. You know, they've done some different things over the last 2 weeks. As we watch film, we don't know if it's because of the opponent that they played or or they're trying something new out, but they're a little more dynamic in the run game, not only with number 4, but now the quarterback's now becoming a little more dynamic. So we're going to have to take care of both those guys.
Well, speaking of dynamic, I mean, offensively, you guys have been a very dynamic offense all season long with Luke Knight at the controls, the Army commitment. Then he has a couple really good wide receivers in Isaiah Riggins and Bryce Randolph. Just kind of talk about how this offense is really just all season long been able. I mean, if there's anything you could really bet on, it's you guys are going to put up a lot of points.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, having Luke has been fantastic. You guys know. I mean, he's just like another coach on the field. He's a general, and the offense fits what he does. He gets us in and out of bad situations. So the kids have responded really well to Luke and how Luke has responded to everybody on the team. So it's exciting to watch and be a part of.
What is the advantages? Obviously, there's a lot of teams that are playing teams for the first time in the region quarterfinal, but for you guys, you get to face somebody that you've already faced. What are the advantages and what are the disadvantages of that?
Well, there's a lot of disadvantages. I can tell you that. Like you can't do certain things because you know you're going to prepare. Both coaches are going to prepare for the inevitable, what we can do well and what they can do well. When you play somebody different, you know, you got 2 game films, maybe you can reach out and get a couple more, and it's just different faces, different looks, what they do. But when you look at tendency wise and how teams are coached, you know, we're kind of us and Springston are kind of mirror images of each other, and for the most part of trying to teach fundamentally sound football and play good defense. Even though in our last game, defensively, we both of us were kind of suspect, but you hope you fix it, and I think it's going to be another exciting game.
And just being back in the playoffs, obviously last year was a bit of a disappointment for you and the staff and the boys, but just getting back into the postseason, I mean, is there anything like playing meaningful football, playoff football in November at this time of the year?
You get an extra week of practice, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 6 more weeks. It's great for the young kids. But just being able to know that you're in the top 32 in 4S, and that you're all vying for one trophy that's going to be presented the first week of December is exciting. And I know our kids are excited to be back in the playoffs. I know the staff's excited to be back in the playoffs. So a lot of work going on from January all the way to this point. So we're excited. We're enamored that we got a home playoff game. Hopefully we'll have a great crowd Friday night, and hopefully we can put it on a show.
All right. Well, that is Wiregrass Ranch head coach Mark Cantor. His Bulls are going to take on the Springstead Eagles this Friday night. Coach, thank you for coming on with us.